And retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton has more than 30 years of military experience with the United States Air Force. He is joining us live tonight. Always great to see you. Do you believe Russia's claim that troops are retreating from Kyiv and focusing on this other region in Donbass?
Well, good evening, Ruta. You know, I think your terminology at the top of the hour was smoke and mirrors. I think that's exactly how I would call this. I've negotiated with the Russians years ago when I was on the staff of the Joint Chiefs of Staff with strategic arms reduction talks and so forth. And frankly, you can't trust them. They are, you know, their techniques in terms of negotiations, for instance, is really to deflect and deceive. Now, what we're seeing on the battlefield, as John Kirby said, is again, it's not a withdrawal, it's a reposition. And let's make no mistake about it. My judgment, and a lot of my colleagues' judgment, believe that, again, Putin's aim is still to topple the Zelensky government, which means his aim is still to take over Ukraine, and that key center of gravity target is Kyiv. So whether or not he starts to focus on Donbass because he's losing on the battlefield is another thing to consider. But let's make no mistake about this. He is all about, again, taking over Ukraine.
And when the Kremlin makes these announcements, right, who are they talking to? What is the aim?
Well, it's a good point in your question, because the aim is there's multiple audiences here. First and foremost, it's to satisfy, you know, the Russian people, because right now this is really a war, that an invasion rather, that's really going poorly, and so they're bogged down. And so there's a narrative here to placate the, you know, certainly the attitudes of the Russian people as they become more and more informed on what's really going on in Ukraine. Secondly, it's obviously to Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, but every time that Putin tries to, you know, scale and take over the narrative, it just stiffens the resolve of President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. Third, it's to the West. And the West being obviously the United States, leading NATO, to include the European Union, the G7. And the fourth audience, frankly, is the rest of the free world that really is laser focused on this conflict.
And so the Pentagon says it's a repositioning, not a withdrawal. But this does come after these negotiations. If you're putting on your optimist hat, is it possible that this could be a concession by Russia?
Yeah, I'm not ready to put on my optimist hat right now. Again, I look at capabilities. I try not to really read intents, or intentions rather. I look at capabilities. The Russians are still shelling Kyiv with long range and medium range artillery. They're still pummeling, Mariupol down there in the south. Kharkiv is still under, attack. All the while, the Ukrainians are fighting back. They're on the offense. As was mentioned earlier, is that that town Irpin just to the west of Kyiv is opened up because the counterattacks by the Ukrainians. So I don't put anything in terms of narratives. I don't put anything in terms of deception or miscommunications at all. I look at the facts on the ground. The facts are telling me that the Russians are dug in. Their still objective is to topple Zelensky and Ukraine. So I'm still not buying it.
Actions speak louder than words, right? Zelensky, though, does seem to be willing to make a concession, remaining neutral. Would he say that negotiators were not getting anywhere with Russia?
Well, I wouldn't use the concession word with President Zelensky. I think what he's put on the table is he wants his country to remain sovereign, wants to protect the sovereign territory, were his words, which means he wants all Russian forces out of Ukraine. That includes the Donbass region and so forth. Secondly, he is looking for security guarantees that not only from the West, but other partners that could play in those security guarantees, maybe China, maybe Israel and so forth. So no, he's not making concessions because actually he's in a position of strength right now. He doesn't have the mass that the Russian military has. By the way, 75%, according to General Todd Walters, the commander of the United States European Command, says it's committed to this conflict. 75%, that's extraordinary. But Zelensky still, I believe, holds some cards here. Therefore, he is not in a position to appease, I believe, and we need to continue to make sure that he's in a position to succeed and frankly win.
All right, Lieutenant General Newton, thank you. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.